Well, folks, we hope you didn't need a rush of blood to the head to listen to this podcast. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Cory.
And we have a special guest this week. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Jerry. Well, I'm in Baltimore, but originally I was born in West Africa, Cameroon. Grew up in Nigeria. Came to America when I was 13 in the good city of Indianapolis, Indiana, Midwest. Went to high school there and went to college in Bloomington, Indiana. Studied mathematics. I guess I love to play piano. I started playing piano when I was like 9 years old. That's a little snap about me.
All right.
Piano's right up the alley on this album today, man.
Yeah.
Piano is at the forefront.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah. And you also you're a music producer too.
Yes.
Typically, what kind of music do you produce?
Typically, what influenced my music was church and gospel music, because my dad was a pastor. That's why I grew up in different African countries. So I come from Cameroon. Cameroon is around Congo. It's central of Africa. I don't know if you have heard any music or guitar chords from that region. It's very, very sweet. I also would say that's probably what I would call it. So I come from the great area of just hearing those sounds, but my parents were so strict, I wasn't allowed to listen to any circular music in the house. So I was bought a piano. I couldn't watch TV. I only could read books, go to church, go to choir camps. That was my life. So what influenced my music? I came to America. I was still playing in the church. But when I noticed that my happy place was when I just play music to myself. Like if I'm feeling bad, I'm not having a good time, I'm not having a good day, I can just go to my room, take my piano, and I'm in a world that I feel no pain. I don't think about nothing. I just think about making these progressions, coming up with something cool or something I saw someone else play that I want to do. I started making beats on my piano. If you know, you had all those old Yamaha pianos, you can do like 2 to 3 tracks.
Yep.
You record the drums and you recorded, 3 other instruments on it. But interestingly, I went to Indianapolis high school. That was government high school that didn't have a piano program. So I love music so much that I wanted to fit in somehow. So I picked up a trumpet. I joined I was part of the Indianapolis public school band, first trumpeters, and really, so it just kind of grew me to just love instruments. I would bring back a trombone home. The next week I'll bring back a tuba.
Oh, you're a brass man. All right.
Yeah, so I would just pick up anything and just vibe with it. But I love piano though. Like that's what I love. But I would just love it. So influence to my music was really just coming of age and just saying, hey man, I really love this thing. I have this math degree. Do I really want to do math the rest of my life? Hell no. I can see myself when I'm old doing music with my child. So I was like, once I can see that, it makes sense for me. Like I can do anything, whatever I want to do in the world, but music should be my baseline. So luckily I got my brother into it too. He's also a producer. So we opened up a production company and I learned music so I started now learning how to program music to like, Fruity Loops, Studio One. It's basically just applications that you can just put down your concept, with whatever tools they give you. And that's really my background to what got me into where I want to produce music professionally, to where people are paying me to do stuff. But when it comes to what I produce, since I'm influenced by a lot of experiences in life and a lot of cultures, it's really like anything. It's really wherever I've been, wherever I've vibed to. Like, of course, I grew up in America, so I definitely produced hip-hop beats. My brother is a hip-hop guru, but I personally love Afro-pop. I love African music, reggae, dancehall. I used to do a lot of techno stuff, blues, R&B, sampling. So we do a lot of weird stuff. That's really what I'm into. So me and my brother would do this thing where the artist will come to us and would say, hey, man, you can tell us what you want. We'll come up with a concept for you. We'll come up with an instrumentation for you. Hell, we even shoot you a music video. and charge you one up price for it.
Nice.
So we get into things like that, where artists will come, don't know what they're going into. Like, okay, what do you think? What's your experiences? Vibe with them in the studio. Like, okay, your culture is this. Okay, that's the type of music you should do. It could be they're from Ghana. I'm like, hey, you can listen to some music from Ghana. You can, maybe that's where you can draw your inspiration. I can just vibe with the artist in the studio, and then we'll get back to the instrumentation. When it comes to instrumentations, you can look at all types of genres of music, and you can break it down to the elements of it. You can look at rock, you can break it down. Okay, what makes this a rock track? What makes this that's what I'm into. So if you come to me and say, hey, bro, I need you to make me a rock track, believe you, I'm gonna make you a rock track. I'm always want to go and say, what type of rock? What are you feeling? Like, what are we talking about? And of course, I might not be the best at it, but I always believe if you practice something, you practice it. You're gonna
most
be
definitely.
eventually. Yeah. So that's really what got me into music production stuff.
Yeah. I think on all those points you touched on the world language of music, the universal language of music, and that's awesome. That's what we do here too.
We haven't done everything, but we do a lot. And and I mean, I know, speaking in this country, the Afrobeats genre is just on the rise. Just last year, we had our this country had its biggest ever Afrobeats hit. It did need Selena Gomez to do it, but it's definitely, I think, a big it shows a shift into where things are going because people want new sounds.
Let me tell you guys an important information of what Charlie just said, right? So this is 2013. I just graduated college. I don't know what I want to do. I'm in Indianapolis. But I knew I wanted to do music. At that time, I was actually learning how to produce on FL Studio with a couple of good guys out there. But we're all Africans. But we're in the Midwest. And we're like, what are we gonna do? How are you gonna do music that people are gonna like? Your neighbor is gonna like. You're not gonna. If I'm doing the music for people in Nigeria, am I gonna go to Nigeria tomorrow and perform for them? Do we even have the money to do that? But are we from Nigeria? Sure. But we have to figure out that balance. And I told my guys, I'm like, I don't go to class, and my teacher asked me where I'm from, and I'm like, oh, I'm from Indianapolis. I'm like, yeah, I'm from Indianapolis, but this is what influenced me. I'm from Cameroon, and I moved here. I'll always be proud of my journey. So I told him, like, bro, the music that y'all left out there in Africa is really, really sweet. And if there's any music you want to bet, we're in America, bro. We hear what they listen to here. Reggaeton came. The wave of reggaeton came. Yeah. And left. That was a subgenre to Afro. People don't know that. That is the grandkids of Afro. You don't want to have that. Dance hall, reggae. These are all subgenres of Afro. People don't understand that. It's from Africa. So it was just a matter of time to where it was gonna just come in, because America became one of the biggest consumers of prime music, good music. Everybody in America got the money to spend. You got good music, oh yeah, we want to buy it. That's why I just felt like it was gonna somehow come over here, because it was already making waves in Europe.
Oh yeah.
It was already before that. Like, there's even an prominent African genre that was created in Europe and then went back to Africa. Coupé Tegalé. It was created in France by African immigrants and then became a big thing in Africa. So we've seen it happen in the other side of the world. And I'm like, man, it's going to take time. But I knew that hip hop music was very, like in the 90s, in the 2000s, that music was still coming up. And it was going to blow up regardless, right? It's a very short, short time of it existing. So once that gets to a certain level and they start doing collaborations with other music from another continent, then this is the most consumed music here. And because look at how it came. Whiskey did a feature on Drake. Matter of fact, it's not even a feature. He was sampled, but he still got a feature credit. And that was a song that went #1 in America, and it was an Afropop song. Even what Drake was singing is not what people knew. That's not his life. That was literally written by an African guy asking you to sing it. You from Canada.
Yeah, he's absolutely from Canada. That's for sure.
True. But the power of that beat, regardless, you know, it doesn't matter who.
Man.
People
matter.
enjoyed it because it was good music. I love that. I love, especially in this melting pot, you see this American climate of music somewhat be staged or pushed towards a pigeonholed mindset. But you look at everybody that's making music really worldwide at this point, but more so we're talking America now, you know, on the indie level, on the making it for love level. There's so much beautiful sound out there, and it all comes from, you know, our roots, what we listened to, what we played, and where we came from. I love that. I love that. I always think of dancehall more when I think of Afro, like the crossover there. That's where they meet in my mind. But yeah, it's wild to see. It's wild to see people embrace sound, period, you know?
Yes, but always good.
One quick note on dancehall, just the fact that bro mentioned it a little more. There's a debate right now that dancehall artists, I don't know if you guys know Shaggy. He came out on
that it wasn't me. That guy. Now he does songs with Sting.
Yeah.
So that's wild in and of itself, but that's how it's going.
But anyway, Shaggy was dirty dancehall, right? He was the dirty dancehall.
Man, he was. Yeah. Man, I love Shaggy. Like, it was just different. But he's saying that, to his credit, he's saying that whatever traction Afro has now, you have to give thanks to dancehall. And for that, I give him that. Dancehall was a thing here, was a staple music here. But he should also say to that what is the origin of dancehall?
Yeah, I feel like dancehall in America, and not to get too far off, but dancehall, the wave, as you called it earlier, or just the feeling of dancehall in America came more from that Jamaican inspiration, where people equated it with that Jamaican dancehall inspiration, more so than the Afro inspiration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So he's right, but it's a little debate, and it's good for the culture where people can learn different traces of how genres can meet and where it comes from and things like that.
I mean, look at Beyonce. She's dropping a country album. So we're talking about crossing genres.
Yes.
We're about to get a country album from Beyonce.
But hey, I'm not
excited.
surprised. She's from
excited.
Texas.
Of course. I'm not excited.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. Like, of course, she's from Texas. Like, if she was from, like, let me say, I'll say from New York. You think in New York, artists would fall off so much of a swing in genre-wise?
Yeah, but even her being from Texas, I must be honest and say Beyonce making a country album as the second act of her renaissance was not on my Beyonce bingo card. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
How we true on that?
Yes. No, but it's crazy enough. Today, we're actually going to talk about some guys from across the pond, all the way in England. Coldplay. I mean, when you think about it, really probably the biggest band of the 21st century so far. In terms of sales, when it comes to music and concert tickets, they've had a pretty crazy impact. And when you really think about it, it's pretty mind-blowing. And Jerry told me that he was a big fan, and I thought, well, we have not done a Coldplay album, and they're such a huge band. Let's talk about Coldplay. It just made sense to do, and the one Jerry suggested for us was A Rush of Blood to the Head, which is their highest selling album today. Period. I don't know why I almost said today. It's their highest selling album. Hard to see that changing because not everybody buys albums like they did in 2002. But yeah, this is their second album, so always a big thing to do. Follow up a successful debut, which they had. And it's a tall order, so there's always that question of, are they going to do it? You know?
It's not, I'm right with you on it's a tall order, but for me, it's an even taller order because you're coming off the backside of Yellow, and Yellow had its lovers and haters regardless, but everyone knew it, and it almost became sort of this weird pop phenomenon in a way. And it was like, what are you going to do? Because they sat stagnant for a little bit, you know, where they didn't even know what they were going to do.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Oh, most definitely.
Oh wow.
In fact, and we'll get to talking about it, but this album isn't really the album that we were getting when they were going to the record company. They were like, this is shite. I forget, it was the English curse that they had said as I was reading. And they were like, we got to rework this. And a lot of stuff that they were recording on a CD called Songs for Number 3 ended up being on it, with the inclusion of Clocks. Not getting ahead of myself, but
Clocks.
Yeah,
it's so crazy. Clocks almost wasn't on the album, but we will get there. That's
a lie. Oh my God.
I was mind blown to find that out. But so Jerry, how old were you when this album came out in 2002?
So in 2002, I was still in Africa. I came in 2003. So I didn't even know anything about Coldplay till I got to college. Probably 2007.
All right, that was in between X and Y and Viva La Vida.
Yes. So but what captivated me, the first song I got was Yellow. I listened to Yellow like 100 times. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Because you have to understand, they sing like it's a hymn, but it's different. Like it's just different. And it's like the lyrics, the delivery, the style, the tenderness of his voice, and then the instrumentation coming firstly. It was just all of that just captivated me. But yeah, I got into it in college very late. But I once I got to it, that was my sleeping music. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to produce music like them. And I probably I've not done that yet, but I need to get to that level. You know, that's what was always in my head. Like, I want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool to hear for me, because I know me, I mean, I was 5 when the album came out, and no, I was not listening to this, like, you know, it hit more the next year, but no, this wasn't exposed to me, really, at that point in time, being that age.
Okay.
But I mean, a couple of these, well, one song in particular, it's kind of always been around. Coldplay, for me, it's one of those bands, they've always been around. They've always had some really big hits here.
True.
And especially Viva La Vida, I love that song. That was great then, great now. But
they won't have that. I feel like they won't have that without Paradise. Is it Paradise came before that? Didn't it?
Paradise is after.
After? Oh, it's after.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It is after. Yeah. It is after. Okay.
Yeah.
I love Paradise too. Paradise.
But they've always been making hits, but I've never really had that strong of a feeling either way about them. And there's some people love them, obviously, we see that based on the sales. They also have their haters. I mean, my mother even said to me, yeah, a lot of people like to make fun of Coldplay. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, but I mean, you can't deny the hugeness of them.
I mean, what? I just want to see what was one of the things they said. The people that hate it,
their lyrics especially get flagged on, and I think Chris Martin being with the celebrity lifestyle, married to Gwyneth Paltrow, probably turned some people off, which understandably, because Gwyneth Paltrow is a little, but they're no longer together, and you know what? I mean, they still sell out stadiums 25 years into their career.
That was what I was talking about in the tall order, though. Like when even your ma, says, some people make fun of them. There was this after Yellow in the pop culture vibe, was this like almost like a guilty pleasure, oh, you like Yellow kind of thing. It just was there because it was so huge. Everyone knew it, and inevitably there were sides taken. That's why this was really decisive in my opinion. Again, not getting too far ahead, but in them being successful. They're it doesn't matter what you put them on, those four musicians are stalwart musicians. They are top of their class killers. Together, they're insane. Their production value is through the roof, and their composition is always very, very, very geniusly put together, whatever they do. But you could have put a crap album out after after the Yellow phenomenon, or you could have put a similar album out that just sort of fell flat, and they might have been forgotten in the history of music, as far as without Clocks is its own entity. Okay.
Yes.
Without Clocks, like if there wasn't something here that had a pull like Yellow, I feel like it was very, very unsure for them. And that's why I said a super tall order coming into this one.
Yeah, and the one thing I've read early on with the Yellow and the Parachutes album, they, of course, when you're successful, you'll get compared to other bands. A lot of people said, well, they're just a poor man's Radiohead. And
that was a tough thing for them too, because that sound was there.
Yeah, and I mean, with this album, they definitely went out of their way to more so establish their own sound. That they're not Radiohead, they're their own entity. I mean, the Stereo Gum column I read about them even said, like, Chris Martin's far more Bono than Tom York, and I completely agree with that.
That is true. Sure. That is true.
I mean, I get quite a bit of U2 vibes from this particular album, but the good news for the band was it was a success. It topped the charts in the UK, made it to number 5 in the US. It sold over 15 million copies worldwide, close to 5 million in the US alone, probably more than that now since that was last reported. And it's also their best reviewed album. This was their, I don't remember the exact number, but it was on Rolling Stone's most recent 500 greatest albums of all time.
Not surprised.
I believe it was in the 428, and that's off the top of my head. It's right around there, I believe.
Yeah, but it's on there, and that's a huge accomplishment in and of itself, and it ended up winning 3 Grammys as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
While we're here, just for longtime listeners, I want to point out that Rolling Stones gave this a 4-star review, and they gave Boy Genius a 5-star review.
Well, from last week. That's I think they have different writers now. That's
true. That's true. Times have changed. That's true. I shouldn't judge on an antiquated review, but
you have a point, though. You have a point. Boy Genius was not 5 stars.
Good album. Yeah, good album.
Not 5 stars, though. Not 5. But with that being said, I am ready to talk about all these songs one by one, especially since we have a few to go before we get to the big one that we've already referenced more than once. So, Are we ready?
Let's get at it.
Let's go.
All right. So this album begins with Politic, which was recorded a big 2 days after 9/11.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was pretty shook to find that out. And Chris Martin stated the song was about his realization of mortality, which I could definitely hear that. And I'm sure there's a bit more heft to that being so soon after the 9/11 tragedy. In a musical sense, this is definitely, to me, the most Radiohead-esque track on the album, but it's not as cynical lyrically as Radiohead.
I see.
The shifts on it for me are a bit jarring. It's an okay opener. I think we've got a lot better to come here. I'm gonna say that. In terms of this, it's just, in terms of what I know is coming, this is just okay for me. What do you, who wants to start with what's next?
Jerry, go ahead.
I'll go ahead. I mean, I kind of just want to pay attention to just understanding that he recorded that after that tragedy, whatever happened. It makes sense how he vocally approached that track. He was trying to convey a certain emotion with the way he sang the track. But I love, of course, just listening to it, it set the tone for the whole album too, because it starts with the guitar and it goes. I think they love doing the guitar and the piano. I don't know if whatever they do there, they mix things up. You know, it starts with that, and then the drums kind of comes in. So it's a typical. I think it was literally. I love it as an intro track because it literally kind of what they all it set the pace basically for the. You don't want to start too hot. You don't want to have your hottest song on the first track. You really want to have people like, oh, what is he saying? Oh, okay, I want to go to the next one. So I think that's that's the vibe he gave me. But definitely with you on the fact that it's probably a more like you would hear it and it's more of a radio song than the ones that we love more. But still, like you don't know what the users are gonna love, man.
Yeah.
When you create, you don't know.
I mean, for me, spoiler alert, if you're a long time listener, you already know I'm not the biggest Radiohead fan. So, but now, Cory, what do you think of the song?
Well, I was familiar with the fact that he was writing this after 9/11. And in fact, he had gone on record saying that this album was more so inspired from this urgency inside of this political landscape, which put a pin in that because I thought that's where this album was going to go. But I think this album takes a turn in a different direction, whether it be for the good or the bad. But this as an opener, I really enjoy. And we get smacked with this climactic beat right off the top. And it's a super beautiful, almost at a top of a crescendo right off the top. And then we are dropped to a whisper. And really, you know, we talk about the subconscious listener all the time, but we really get our subconscious ear turned right down and our head in to listen there. It's dark, and it's dark and driving throughout this first third of the song, which I enjoy because at 3:05, when it goes into the major chord switch, I feel like that's this glimpse of hope inside this song where he or they are almost begging us to open our eyes, you know, and we get to open our eyes at 3:05 and have this major chord progression, which gives us a happier outlook now that our eyes are open, even though everything is still going on. It's definitely an opener that sets the tone of urgency that I thought he was going for at this first spot. I can feel where you're at on, is it like a super opener? Only in theory and composition. I don't feel like it's a super opener on pacing the way this album goes, but it's a good song. I definitely enjoy this one.
Yeah. And I do like that you point out that it starts off with more of the political thing, and it's a bit of a red herring, but at the same time, I do think urgency is definitely a theme that will be revisited in this album again and again.
Yes.
Not quite as much on the next song, though, which is In My Place. This was a leftover track from Parachutes, which...
Wow.
Okay, why? Yeah, pretty funny that the leftover track ended up being the lead single from the album. Okay. I mean, in hindsight, it's crazy this was the lead single because it was not the big hit. But it, you know, I do like this song, though. It has a big sound to it. It's got a bit of melancholy. I definitely feel that in its delivery, but I don't know. It's very of its time, but in a good way. I feel really nostalgic listening to it.
Yes.
And I mean, it had its place. It did what it had to do with introducing people to the second album. And I mean, it made it all the way to #2 in the UK and 17 on Bubbling Under for Billboard, which was good for the band at this point in time. Being this is just the second album, Yellow was the expectation. That's a good start for that.
Yeah, I mean, what I notice is I just love the drums.
Oh yeah,
definitely something that I highlight from that song. You have to understand. We remember we're coming out the intro, and like bro said, it was a crescendo kind of song where it took us on a little journey. And then on the second song, it just like comes in with with the drums, like I like that because it's as a listener, I want to be engaged. You know, I just went on a journey on the first song. What's up? Like you hit me with those drums, crazy chords, crazy transitions. I'm in there. Like, so that's the way I'm looking at it. Like, that's the feel it gave me. Because I love to look at, like we're saying, they're painting a picture that you think that's the road you're going to, and then when you get to the last song, you didn't know you were going to go to that place where you are.
Yeah, and I think they do a good job here with that. This is immediately a cutting room floor parachutes track. This is bright Coldplay sound of Yellow, and not in a negative way. It's single ready. They knew that coming in. They had to know that coming in. And it does a good job here in the second spot because this orchestration heavy Coldplay was not, and I'm not doing first time listener. I'm talking about where I was here, you know, or where the climate was when this album came out. To the populace, this orchestration heavy Coldplay sound wasn't there yet. So you get that first track with this really envisioned and well done composition. And for some listeners, that might have been a little bit jarring, expecting to hear Yellow. And then so you get the second track where they're almost eased in, but it's not in any way a throwaway track, and it shows because it did so well. It's a good one. It's really just one of their single ready jams from their old era. I'm glad. I want to say this in a non-negative way. I'm glad we got this in the early stage of the album right here and got done with it, because later on, I think it would have felt flat or almost felt really out of place.
Yes. You know?
Yes. But it's a great one. It speaks for itself.
Yeah, you're right. On the placement of it, it had to come now. Yeah, it had to.
And the listeners do need to be eased in because that's what the public wants and what the label wants. So.
This is the only piece of the machine that I could even find on this album, in all honesty. Jer, when I speak of the machine, I speak of like big corporate music, period. Okay. We talk about like the machine thoughts sometimes, or why singles are put here and there. And for me, most of the time that's a negative connotation, but here, like, it's the only thing I can find. And I don't even know, it's just single ready, you know. Don't waste that bad boy. Put them on there.
And they were ready to do it.
I see what you're saying.
They were ready to do it. And I think they have another single ready track with the next song, which is God Put a Smile on Your Face, an up-tempo rocker, which I think is good. It's more straight ahead in that sense, which is good for this point in the album. I think that's a good, smart move for the third track. And it's got very prominent acoustic and electric guitars, which I really always enjoy the melding of that. It kind of reminds me a lot of the band Heart, which is one of my favorites. So always happy to hear that. They had difficulty recording the song, actually. It took Guy Berryman playing the same bass note again and again to...
Oh, I love the bass.
Get to have it, to give it the bounce it needed, and it worked really well.
Wow.
It worked really well. This was the fourth and final single, only made it to 100 in the UK, 15 on the Adult Alternative in the US. They didn't promote it by this, but they were deep into touring the album. And that's how it goes for those last singles. We've seen that here a bunch of times. So, but overall, one of the best songs here. I really enjoy this one, and it's very happy. It's very happy.
Yeah, this one was, you remember, we'll have to look where we're coming from, right? We just started on the track one, get to track two. That is just, the percussion's a little heavy. So they had to give us some kind of soft, sweet, probably is those chords with the blues chords, right? Am I wrong? Yeah. So they had to kind of, and I love that switch of vibe, but one thing is like even the play of words with what this song is called, like I know based on I think it's a 50 Cent song. Go give me sign, go give me grace, go give me sign, something like that. So I don't know which came out first, but
this would have come out first. I don't know
already,
what.
yeah. Oh yeah, this round too.
Yeah, because
50 like 2003, right?
Get Rich or Die Trying was 03, so the year after this.
Thank you. So, and you see how they ventured off and got some hip hop influences later on. So these are just signs of probably how artists kind of like feed off each other's vibe. But yeah, I love the track. Oh, and you letting me know about what happened behind the scenes to get that bass on point. Ooh, that bass, yeah, it was needed. Yeah, that bass, yeah, he got it. I think he got it right.
He did. Listening to this song, I was blown away by it first, but second, automatically, I was like, this song had to be hell to produce. In fact, I searched to find, because I was convinced it was a 12-string guitar that he was playing there, because the way the chord is done, the open E string sings by itself, but it's the same note as the string before it, so it doubles up. It took me a while. I dug in, and it's a single guitar, and it's actually a single track on that guitar. But this one is a production masterpiece, but I would have to think that it's a production nightmare as well. I love this riff. Charlie, I'm with you. It's right up there for contender for me of favorite track on the album. It speaks, man. It really speaks. And I enjoy it. I'll go to where Jared was going with the God in here. It's such a neat play on words. I'm right with you, because this God put a smile on your face acts as this humanity in a nutshell thought process inside here, where the narrator is saying like, yeah, I'm not perfect, just as you are. I'm paraphrasing as we go through, but it's really this trip through. Now I'm going to go to the switch of where I thought this urgency was going. We start to see this urgency of finding a man finding himself in, really a man finding himself inside of himself, and that urgency. And this is where it starts for me. An album that I thought was going to be this political run now turns into a real personal quest, and I dig it. And this is really the beginning of that for me. That the naked acoustic guitar helps out there too, because it really speaks as the personal man, the personal narrator inside of this. This track is bomb, man. I love this.
Crazy.
Yeah, I really do.
Most definitely. We are on a very good run, but we're gonna slow things down a bit for track 4, The Scientist, one of the big ones. Yes, one of the big ones. So yeah, it's a ballad where science is a metaphor for love. So you think I would expect that to be like a lot nerdier in this song than it actually is, but it's not. Yeah, I mean this is one of those songs, again, I mentioned earlier, some of these Coldplay songs have just been around forever, and this is one of those songs for sure. So it's different to come to this and look at it from try to listen to it with fresh ears when it's always been around for me. Bit of a hot tea take here. Actually, no, I think this is the hot tea take. I think this song is a little bit overrated. I think it's a very pretty song, definitely a highlight of the album, but it's become the song from the album. It's easily the most streamed, over 1.7 billion streams on Spotify, and I just don't think it is the song from the album. But that's just me.
Like you always say, I think you might be in the minority on that one. I am. In the numbers there.
I would say this. I'm with you on, it's my second favorite song on the album. I'll give you that. I'll give you as much as that. But I look at this song as if you sail in the ocean for months, and you land at some piece of land. This is the anchor you anchor your ship on. All right. So if you look at the album, you want to anchor now. Like, are we? Where are we? Where you've been giving us all of this? What's up? This is it. This is where you anchor it. This is when you come out and your record label is like, hey, we'll give you guys double in the next deal. That's why I love the way the song, and of course it's songs that are really likable. Of course, going to be inflated, right? It's going to be because now the minority we don't want you guys like, bro. It's like we don't want to hear what you're saying, bro. We don't want to, you don't count because it's just that good. Even you that you might have some little bad things to say about it, like yeah, but it's still that one though. But it's still that one though. So I'm with you on that because the next song is my favorite, right?
The anchor is perfect there because the anchor where you're talking about anchor it and pay them extra, I'm talking about we finally figure out, or I do, maybe it's just me, but I finally figure out what this album's about. And it's about of a person being a person inside of love. And here's this urgency where this scientist is now overthinking and dissecting. They're composition masters on this one. We get this lone piano vocal and Chris just there alone with the piano. And then we get this narrator alone in the face of love, helpless, alone. And then after the chorus, the band comes in and ushers in this working scientist narrative that really feels at home inside of this story of trying to find love. I get super like montage vibes with the end instrumental here, and I almost start to put my own story together there. I read that Chris was trying to learn the riff for George Harrison's All Things Must Pass when he came up with this, and it makes sense, and it sort of plays out there. But this one's awesome, man. I composition master, so I gotta be not with you on the hot tea take there, Char. This one, I love this one. I don't know this one as like the song of the album either, and maybe that's me living under a rock or being an older guy, but this one I wouldn't be like the scientist is the jam off that one.
Man.
But then the numbers are there, so I'm in the minority there.
Yeah.
The thing about this song, it made me just love the fact that I know how to play piano. Like it gave me so much gratification. Like I'm like, yo, like this is because you have to understand the song kind of feels like a hymn, like, but it's it's like bro said, it's an honest song, right? It's a man is being vulnerable, trying to figure it out. He always was trying to tell us that from the beginning. Now he's kind of like he's home now. He's telling us this is what I'm dealing with.
Yeah,
and it's a hit, bro. Like no matter what you say, even if he makes it better, this is a hit. Like this right here, we don't want to hear about nothing else. But of course, the next song.
yes, but of course, before we get to the next song, it's funny we talk about like the song itself. This is definitely, I think, a big part of this song's popularity. It was helped by the video, which is awesome, by the way. I mean, he literally learned to walk backwards for a month to do that video. That's so cool.
Oh wow! Did not know that.
Yeah, I saw a very cool video about Coldplay. It was a deep discog dive from a guy named Mike the Snare on YouTube. I would definitely check it out. Whether you like Coldplay or not, I think you'll get a lot from it as he talks about each and every one of their albums and key tracks from them and gives us an overview of the band's history. If you want a more general thing, definitely check that out. But this was, of course, the second single, but only in the UK. Actually, Capitol Records said, no, this isn't enough of a blood rush to be the second single. We need something else to be the second single. And alas, the second single in the US was none other than the track number 5, Clocks. Yes, this song touching on urgency and desperation. Yeah, this was one of the last songs made for the album. And it was so late in the game that Chris Martin put it on the Songs for Number 3 CD. He was ready to put it on the next one. But album ended up getting delayed. They weren't happy with where it was. And the band's manager, Phil Harvey, said, you have to put Clocks on the album. And his reasoning I love this. His reasoning to Chris Martin was, this is a song about urgency and you want to shelve it.
Exactly.
So that's also kind of a fancy way of saying you have a hit and you'd be a moron not to include it on your album, which we've been leading up to this song, and I'm so glad I got to revisit it this week, because this is a song I really can't think of a world it doesn't exist in, because it's been around forever for me. You know what I mean? Like, this was a hit in 2003 when I was 6. I'm 27 now. This song's always been around, but it's one of those songs after me. It's like, I've listened to it. I was like, I've really taken this song's existence for granted. I've just kind of let it be there, and it's just so much more than that. And there have been a lot of imitators of this song. Even Coldplay has at times tried to do songs very similar to it. But the original can't be beat, and that piano line is iconic for a reason. And I mean, what else is there to say about Clocks? You guys gotta take it from here, because
off the top, this is my favorite.
Of course.
Impeccable composition. Oh my god, it's just impeccable. I feel like, when you reach that Valhalla, when you're as a musician, it's like a chase in the next thing. You can even be in your studio. You hit me and my brother used to do a thing where we when it's during holidays, he would come over and we'd do like 10 beats in a day. We'd do the first one, I do the second one. He does the third one, I do the fourth one. We're just chasing that. And I felt like that's what they got to. That's why they can be recreated, because it has to be a dope moment behind the scenes when they did this record. It has to, even recording it, making of it, I just love it. From lyrics, to way the drums and the bass is sinking. It's just, man, it's what actually melts my heart is the second verse with the harmony. It's I don't know what to say, man. And then this transposition into it too. It's like, Jesus Christ. What's the hardest song to make now? You make a perfect song and then you start taking it from different keys to another key. Like, come on, man. What are you guys trying to do here? Like, so go ahead. Like, it's just crazy.
It's literally, in my opinion, the opus of Coldplay. It is Coldplay. We see hints of this throughout the rest of their music imprint. It is a genius. I use the word genius almost too much here, but this composition is a masterclass in musical composition. It is a masterclass. We musically, just, I'm not even going into lyrics here. Musically, we never leave the arpeggio of ding ding do ding ding do. Even when the piano leaves it, the drums are still mimicking it throughout the whole entire song, and the bass line is dropping the melody of the end of the song throughout the song.
Wow.
Where I wanted to go. The bass is playing this throughout the song. So the song itself of Clocks, this song of urgency and of time, inside of its musical composition mimics actual time happening at all times and going. So this song is happening in its entirety throughout. It's an amazing composition. I can't say.
So what bro is trying to say is, if let's say we're looking want to travel in time or travel through universe, right? I want to have a wormhole in time. This song is the wormhole, is the vortex.
It's a perfect example in musical composition of everything happening, almost like a quantum song, if you must.
Yes,
it's
yes, it
everywhere
is
all at once.
It is,
and it, for me, again, that's why it speaks to the masses, because it is a perfect song. It is an opus.
Thank you.
It is something that will go down in history, and is sampled all over the place, and is immediately recognized and iconic. It just is that, exactly what you say. As musicians, we chase that. That's part of the adrenaline of being musicians, to chase that place where you get that wormhole, to speak.
Yeah,
And this is it.
yes. Yes, this is like, this song is so, this song, like I said, like what Bo was saying, is so they could have just done it where it's a flat song. It's just, well, it's some, I don't even know if the song can even be bad, right? It could be done badly, but it's the fact that they incorporated those. I'm sure they did it purposely. Like, it's not, you can't just stumble on it. You can stumble on the idea, but to execute it, you got to do it right. And this one was done right. It was done from a place of love. It was done for music. They knew they made the song of the ages when they did this song. They knew it.
Yeah, they definitely did. And the public responded. This actually is Coldplay's first top 40 hit in the US, made it to 29, and top 10 in the UK, of course. But yeah, here's this blew my mind in terms of Spotify stats. I mentioned The Scientist has those huge streams. It's over twice as many as Clocks. This song has actually not even reached 1 billion streams on Spotify, and Coldplay has at least 10 songs that have, and it's like...
It'd be like that.
It'd be like that. I mean, I know it's still a wildly successful song, but like, what?
It'd be like, see, that's why I was listening to one of the music producers just giving advice on as a creative, or when you're in the studio, should you care so much about whatever the opinion? Because right now you're looking at the data, that's our opinion of the masses. But this is a masterpiece as of today, right? But this is a masterpiece when it was created. Like, we even when we analyzing it right now, years after, regardless of it, we still analyze it on, this song was done intentionally for the purpose of it being a masterpiece. But come on, man, people are always gonna have their opinion. Man, people are gonna love what they love.
Yeah, I'm just kind of surprised it's been like The Scientist has overtaken it as the most popular song. It just is strange to me this one's faded a bit, just a tiny bit. It's faded considering the band's continued success.
That's wild. It's mind-blowing. The whole time I'm trying to sit here and think of why that would be the case as far as numbers. I understand where you're coming from, is that it was years before streaming took off. Yeah. But still, that's pretty wild. So was everything else on this album. So
yeah, and quite a bit of their discography. But those other, it's just crazy to be like, Yellow has over 1 billion. The Scientist has over 1 billion. Clocks doesn't. That just doesn't. It's not making sense.
I'll tell you right now. That literally is the subset of how life is.
Yeah,
a lot of things are gonna always blow up. And certain the good stuff is always there, but it might not be the most popular thing.
Yeah, it still should be that song though. But anyway, I digress. I've made my point. We all agree. Clocks is amazing. You all know it, and you all know it's great. I'm assuming. I would certainly hope that.
And really, it's actually my number one song when I'm very stressed out.
I mean, it fits that. I think that it fits that vibe. It really does. It's very relatable in that way, for sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. But now that's kind of the end of the first half of the album. And I think now would be a good time to tell all of you, if you're listening, please follow us wherever you're listening to us and leave us a nice rating and review. It would be much appreciated. And follow us on social media. Links are in the description. Now on to what is on the vinyl side too. I had to look up the vinyl track listing of this, and I definitely think they considered how it would be in that form, because it's, I mean, a part of it is how the hell do you follow up clocks? That's a question, but at this point in time, the CD was really the way to go. So it's a bit of a different thing, but you gotta, that's why I thought of it in terms of you flip the album over. And I think they were thinking that with the next track, which is Daylight, because it's a different direction than Clocks.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's a straight up love song. But it's a nice one. I think it has a very nice melody, great vocals. For me, the string arrangement's the highlight of this song. It's what really makes it stand above the pack, and just creates an atmosphere that sums up Daylight. It's this would listening to this all the way straight through, it did take some time for me to fully get into this song because of its place on the album, because it came after this magnum opus. And that can be a problem, but that just goes to show you, you gotta keep giving it a try. And that's sometimes when, brilliance reveals itself, and there is brilliance in this song.
Yeah, the song, like, you have to understand, like, this is a storyline,
yes.
Right? This is, and I don't know if I mean, sometimes in music, the climax don't have to be the last song. So we just, we just got Sands, he's got Clocks. So they're thinking, what we're gonna do now? Like, we still need to get these guys engaged to this storyline. So what they tried to do was switch the vibe, switch it. I think that's really was the purpose of this song placement. It was not gonna be palatable once you just heard what you heard, but it's different. They wanted a different direction, kind of like a new, like, just something else, rather than follow. I'm sure they could have followed up with something, might not as good as Clocks, but close. And then it's kind of overstacking now, because you have like three singles. You might just, you might have like, oh, am I hearing another Clock, or am I hearing another, So I think I love the way they switched it up. I felt like this song gives me a total different vibe. Even in the album, it literally, even the pace of it kind of like switch up the pace too. So that's really what the guitar, of course, freestyle is, of course. That's what they do.
Yes.
So
yeah, it definitely goes without saying this is a switch of pace here. A second side opener is exactly where I was, where you're at, Charlie. But also behind Clocks, it makes sense for me. This album has been perfectly paced up until this point, and still is, because we have a literal song called Daylight, and we get another beautiful composition that gives us a musical example of what it's speaking about, in my opinion. We get these sweeping strings with this Middle Eastern sitar type feel coming in, and the vocals, I love it because his vocals early on mimic those strings. He does this crescendo decrescendo type thing with his voice inside of the early verse, and it's amazing. But for me, that gives this back and forth of this sunrise sunset feeling, and then when we get a full Daylight, we get our break here, our bridge with this tambourine heavy, just flashy Daylight, and I enjoy it. I think it not only brings us in on a great opener for the second side, but if you're listening to it as a full run CD, it gives you a subconscious reset, almost like a sunrise or a sunset does. So I if you haven't been able to tell yet, I do backflips over the way these guys compose their music. I mean, I'm messing up because I'm not even talking about production, but like just composition of these songs is so spot on. And this is another one right here. No bad words to say about this album yet, which is sometimes unique for you know.
Yeah, I'm with Cory on this. I'm like, it's like he said it perfectly. The fact that they switched the vibe, he's right. They wanted to start another story, sub story. They knew they reached the climax, and like Cory said, let's just give them another intro into this closing story. So they're smart for that. It's like giving us part A, part B of the same project.
Yeah. And I know composition wise this is all very good, but yes, Ed Nelson's production on the album is also on point. Let's not forget that. I haven't mentioned the producer guy. I normally have by now, but I felt like
is it the same person that produced every song?
Yes.
Yep.
And that's a bit different for the 2000s. A big change from our last episode, which was Usher's Confessions, that had a bunch of different producers on it. This is all once. It makes it a bit easier for us.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I mean, what do you guys think? Is it make a better project one producer or multiple producers? What do you guys think?
Tend to prefer one producer.
Same here.
At the risk of sounding like I'm in the middle here, I tend to like one producer on rock albums, on band albums, but when you get into I'll even say like a hip-hop realm or an R&B realm, I enjoy having different producers there because everybody's bringing stuff to the table. Maybe it's just because I have this fantasy driven Rick Rubin type of mentality when it comes to like one guy or you know wall of sound type of stuff. One guy working with a band forever, but that's usually where I go on those.
I'm with you on that, Cory. I mean, I can analyze like Get Rich or Die Trying. Yeah. So the greatest hip hop albums have been a combination of those two concepts. There's one guy that produced multiple songs, and then they have 3 or 5 songs that is chipped in by several other producers that one guy probably arranges to give you, because you have to let it flow. Yeah. I think that's so. Cory's right on some genres. It might be better style, like a band wise. Because you, as a producer, if I'm producing for like 5 people, just imagine that to have a more cohesive project, those 5 people going to different producers, it would just it's going to be even a more harder task to make it cohesively good. So if I'm just by myself, because there are 5 of them, it's a band, you can definitely get different vibes, but it can be all consistent because as a producer, while discussing with the artist, what story you're trying to tell. So you can start from track 1 and you can remind them, hey guys, we don't want to do track 6 because we already have that on track 1. Or we want to do track 6, just like it's like a flip of track 1, but like this. So as an in-house producer, like a group producer, it's better for certain band tapes to be one producer. So I would Cory on that.
Yeah, I can definitely see that in terms of different genres. But saying that, whereas we haven't done a hip hop album in a long time.
Truth.
I think we might need to change that soon. I think we might need to.
Y'all got to get me on for a hip hop round.
Most definitely.
We will. We definitely will. But we are now back to Coldplay. And track 7, which is Green Eyes. Chris, it's a love song, acoustic love song, which I think is very nice for this point in the album. And Chris Martin said that the subject of this song was a lady friend he met at a Dave Matthews Band concert, which I know Cory would love that. I love that too. Yeah. And he said it was musically influenced by classic country. I don't quite get that from this song. I just don't think of this as a country band. I feel like it's more folk influenced than country, and there's a difference between the two, for sure. But I really do enjoy the song itself. I think it's sincere. It's not Trekley. It gets to the point, and it's a good track 7. We need it at this point in the album. This pacing's really on point for me. I have to say, really on point for me.
What I take from this song, like Charlie said, it's calm, right? It just kind of like shows calmness at this point of the tape, but also it's now telling us, oh, this is the story they're trying to tell in the second half. Like we said, this after Clocks, we're thinking we got how many songs left after Clocks. So how are we gonna do this? Like after Clocks is still like half of the tape left, right? So
yeah, 6 more songs.
Yeah, they had to slow it down. Super, like getting a love song. That's how I felt about it when it comes to just why this song was important here. Is because since they switched the vibe, now you have a different reference point. So they can come to this song and you're calm. It's like, okay, it's all right. I mean, I'm not even thinking about Clocks at this point. It's like, okay, it's like you said, it's sincere. The lyrics are sweet. The vocals is just different. So I love it. I love the melody a lot. Definitely love the melody a lot. I definitely want to probably listen to more folks. What was the other genre you called that it was influenced by? You thought it was influenced by?
He said it was influenced by country, but I hear it as more of a folk influenced song.
Okay. Sometimes we might get inspiration from a song that the product that you end up with, you would never know that individual got it from that. So I just want to mention that two things could be true. That Charlie's right. It sounds like it comes from something else, and it's also true that he got that inspiration from something else and end up with this.
Yeah, end up with the love song of this album, the true love song of this album. We see this this narrator struggle with love. We've talked about him being inside of this urgency of the scientist, or this urgency of trying to find love. And this is where we get this true acoustic love song. With you on folk. If I have to find country here, I don't necessarily have to find it. The guitar has a country styling to it, but I wouldn't put this into a classical country, because that's what he said. I wouldn't put it in classical country. It's definitely a beautiful song. It's definitely a beautiful love song here. For me, this really starts a 5-song run of the realization of this love. This is the realization of this love, and it ends at our final track. So from here on, you can put a pin in that and take it with you as far as listening for this character, whoever it is inside of this narrative, really going on an adventure here in love.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good that you say, because we definitely see another side of love in the next track, which is Warning Sign, just called A Silly Song About a Girl by Chris Martin, even though it's more than that. It's got some of the best guitar work on the album, and I'm going to say it, I think this is the most honest song on the album. We really are getting a look into this narrator's destructive tendencies, and that's very real, especially in relationships. It's easy to see where things can go wrong, and easy to worry about that. And sometimes we're right, sometimes we're not, but it's just the anxiety that comes with any relationship. And I really like that the song dives into that. And this was actually considered to be a single, and I can see why. I'm going to say it, this is the best song on the second half of the album.
Wait, you say it's the best song? Well, I'm looking at some fun facts. So you guys let me know if it's true. Fun facts. Chris Martin has stated that he's no longer fond of the song, and he has even said he wishes it didn't exist.
Wow.
I mean, this was before he married Gwyneth Paltrow, so.
He said, despite this, the song's still a fan favorite, of course.
Yeah.
And it's often played at concerts. The song was inspired by a girl that Chris Martin once dated. The lyrics of the song are about regret and realization of breakup. So it's just crazy how Charlie felt that way. I just had to be like, this guy don't even like the song no more.
Yeah, but Lennon
I blame Gwyneth Paltrow.
So yeah, really, like, one thing that it kind of, I like this. I love the beat. Like it's it like upfield? What genre is this? This is like, what do you think? Like, what genre is the song? What do you think?
I
say rock.
I would call it a rock song. It's a soft rock song, but a rock song.
Cool. It was upbeat. Like I said, remember what the song we just heard, the love song. There was a little bit more upbeat. It's still them just controlling the pace of the album. Really, it's them understanding that they already gave you clocks. I gave you clocks. I just gave you this love song. Why don't just let's put a little bit of, let's shake this up a little bit now. Like this is we're giving you this now. So they're geniuses at what they do. Of course, we can now tell that, oh, these guys were a masterclass of people, like the way they thought about, the way they even put the songs together. Just talking to you guys and hearing the fun facts on the other songs is just crazy. Like, even when I'm gonna listen to it now after the podcast, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I didn't know that was in the back end of it. So that's my take to it. I love it. It just made me feel like a more upbeat type of tempo. So I loved it.
Yeah, man, it fits here. I'm gonna drive this little adventure of love that we get, this mini episode from Green Eyes all the way down to track 11. But here in Warning Signs, it is that honesty and that relatable tension inside of the struggle of love and relationship here, and it sings through. It fits perfectly pacing, like you said, 100% with the pacing of this album. It's very rare that I make it this far, or we make it this far into an album without being like, I don't know. This one works. This one works well, and it just is more of a character building for what we have to come here.
Most definitely. And we really pick up the pace with the next song, tempo-wise, that is, which is track number 9, A Whisper, the song that Chris Martin called the most likely to be a B-side. He said this was included on the album because of the synthesizer sound, not because the band actually liked it. So another song he kind of dissed, just like he did the previous one. I, again, disagree with him a bit, because do I think this is the best song on the album? Not by a long shot. However, it does have a place here, because this is the most straight ahead rocker on the album, and they show that they can rock with the best of them here, Coldplay style. And I think that needed to be done at some point, whether the song itself is the best or not. I think that was I still think it has an important place here, and I think it's good for this point in the album, especially after we've had some slower, more reflective songs. It's nice to have a rocker.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that. Like, so apparently, a Whisper is a hidden track on Coldplay's debut album, Parachutes.
Oh, I didn't see that.
The song is not listed on the official track list. It starts playing after a long silence after the previous track.
It's the hidden track on Parachutes. I didn't know that either. That's awesome.
Those damn hidden tracks.
I love them. We talk about hidden tracks all the time. That's why we were.
They always come up.
They were a staple in the 90s and early 2000s.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know it was a thing. I thought it was a mistake. Like
no, it would always.
They do this, huh?
Not always, but their hidden tracks are definitely prevalent in the 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
No, it's man, it just shows the way these guys are. Like Charlie said, it's kind of like, man, this is a rocker, right? Like this is I mean, they already give us plus, bro. What else can they give us? Just end the album. Just write us out. Like this is a concert. Write us out, sir. We need an encore because we need to come back again and come through this route again. So yeah, man, it's they do it so well. Like we said, like these guys are master at just getting you from a certain energy, a certain mood, and changing the light setting, changing everything, give you a different food, tell you picture a different story, probably about the same agenda. So they're master at that. You know, it's kind of like the magic trick. That's what they do.
Yeah. So. Like a great storyteller. I really am with you. We're here, and this is the third song in this little story here, and this whisper is creeping through in the mentality of the narrator here, and I really love it. I love the drive of this composition as a rocker. The drums carry this offbeat, just wild time signature inside of this, and I really enjoy that. It also is a super, I won't say breath of fresh air, but it's an uplifting beat inside of here that is a neat crescendo in these last 5 songs. And it ties to this growing whisper inside of the narrative. I dig it, man. It blends, for me, it goes straight into the next song almost seamlessly, not necessarily note to note music, but the way it feels. And this next song is a natural fit for me.
Yeah, and speaking of which, that next song is the title track, A Rush of Blood to the Head. I realized now I totally said the album's name wrong on the last episode. I was pretty discombobulated by the end of that, but it's okay. It's fine. I got it right where it matters. So, found out today this was a Johnny Cash influenced song. I didn't really pick up on that immediately, but Cory is shocked by that.
I in my first notes, I have Johnny Cash with the exclamation point, and then in the dive, read it and was like, ah! Sometimes I like to feel that I'm not as crazy as I am. I say that all the time.
I'm the crazy one here. Okay.
This is Johnny all the way, but not to cut you off.
Yeah, A Rush of Blood to the Head for the Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Yeah, heard.
That's what we're doing here. All right, but yeah, I mean, I can kind of see it now that it's pointed out, but when I first heard it, I really didn't get that. But I do a bit more now. I think this might be another hot tea take. I like the song. I think it goes on for at least a minute too long. That's my take. And this is really where the pacing a bit comes apart for me, because we do have a lot of longer songs here. We have quite a few that go past that 5-minute mark, and I think we need to be smart about how we space them on an album. And I think that having two where it's going to be 2 in a row, I don't think that was a great choice. But
yeah, I'm with you on that. But you also understand that certain songs probably was done already in that format, and yeah, you really want to cut down the song. I mean, a fun fact about the song was it was inspired by an argument between Chris Martin and his wife.
Well, so he wasn't married yet, I think, when this song came out. I didn't think.
Well,
was he married before Gwyneth?
Yeah, it's Gwyneth. His wife Gwyneth. That was what it said. It said something about there's an argument from both of them.
They weren't married yet, though.
Oh, really? Were they dating? Were they
No,
dating?
they weren't married yet. Some of these songs are about somebody else. Actually, I didn't say this earlier. Green Eyes, they stopped playing live after he started dating Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh wow.
Because
it
wasn't about her. That's what I read today. But
Jesus Christ, man. But I'm with you on the whole part of they have been controlling the tape when a part of the I mean, I think to them was we've given our fans a hit project. Let's just overdo it now and give them something that the true fans like me would still be listening to that 1 minute over. So
fair.
To you, you have to understand, like I'm a producer, like there are some songs that I would listen to and I would wish the instrumentation just keep going. So maybe if it fits the fans like me that just I don't mind an overly long, lengthy song. Like I really don't mind as long as it's Coldplay, man. And you have to understand, I got into Coldplay when how far into the future I did that this song already came out. So I'm like, all the time, I would just listen to this album on a repeat. I didn't even care if it was that long. So now that you're saying about it, yeah, I mean, I listened to it this week. I was like, yeah, this song's, I get what you're saying, but I'm like, man, this is a classic. And when you listen to a classic and you know you've made it, and I don't even know if they made a classic, but if I had clocks in the project is a classic. So to them, they were like, man, we can't do no wrong. Can't do no wrong. They're just gonna end it with this too. But Charlie thinks otherwise. So
well, I have to disagree with the length. I enjoy the length, but I don't whoever it's about in this narrative, it screams anger inside of, for me, like the way out, losing a love that you definitely didn't or might not have wanted to lose. I'm gonna buy the place. I'm gonna burn it down. Charlie, I'm not being too hard on you here, but I do not understand how you didn't hear Johnny here. I mean, Chris almost tones it down into this Johnny Cash way of singing. This is that angry, I can't say it any better way, a Johnny Cash type of penultimate feeling for this narrative that I'm inside of in these 5 songs. Right before the end, I think this fits really perfectly. I don't think that it takes me out of the pacing at all. Lengthwise, I was conscious critically going through and seeing those 2 5 minutes, and I'm glad you brought that up. But for me, this one was filled all the way, and I didn't find myself being bored at the end of it. As far as the narrative goes, it is, for me, perfect penultimate track to the way we end this album. This album on Urgency that I thought was going to be a political album, now for me is really a love album.
Oh, yeah. It's a love album.
It is a love album. Yeah.
And we are happy for that. And now, crazy, we are at the end of it with track 11, which is Amsterdam, which was written in its namesake city. Makes sense to do that. From what I read, Chris Martin said the band didn't pay much attention to the song, but that it was the song that took the longest to write despite being the simplest. Okay. A lot of contradictions there, I think, but you know what? I can't read their minds. So, I mean, it's a mostly straightforward piano track, and I think it sounds beautiful. Once again, though, I just think it stays in the same place musically for too long. If we're going to have a long song, we gotta do different things with it at times. Then again, I'm not as big of a fan of like Coldplay as Jerry here. I mean, if it were Fleetwood Mac, I'd probably say make the song 20 minutes, but that's just me. So, you know, everyone's different. Yeah, it's mostly a pacing thing for me, and I think that, my opinion, I feel like you should have something maybe a bit shorter and to the point to close things out after an epic title track of sorts. that we had before it. And I just don't think the song itself, there's not enough for it to say to justify its length. Just how I feel about it.
Well, maybe this might answer you for that. They said the song was written by all four of the band members.
I mean, they're all credited. Yes, they are all credited on all of the songs. I'm not sure how exactly they divvy it up in the studio. I know they're all credited together, but I guess I could see this being more of a collaborative piece than some of the other tracks here. I could see that.
But also, I mean, what Cory was saying all along about a man being vulnerable in the space of love, just finding himself. The album now, we know it's a love album. It's just the song showcases the redemptive power of love. Like it is kind of trying to tie everything in, because we just said the album's about love. So it's really just trying to tie everything in. And I try not to kill artists on the length of the last song, because it's really like, man, like I think the toughest thing to do is figure out the intro and the ending of a dope album like this. Like, so if you had all 8 other songs, or no 9 other songs,
10 others. This is track 11.
Track 11
at this point. So
9, right? So we remove the end, the last song, remove the first song, and they give you 10 other songs with 2 of these songs in the mix. I said, Charlie, you go and pick the intro and pick the end. I'm sure you're not gonna pick these 2. So it's really, you have to understand, it's a storyline, man. They're trying to sing it while tell a story. It's not a perfect movie. Like we said, I felt like the climax was in the middle, which is great. I love it. Works for albums. Might not work for a movie, but it works for an album. So I think they were just trying to tie the subject of the whole project together. And I don't mind, like I said, bro, it's Coldplay, they're a band. I've listened to albums where the last song is just useless. And it's not, this one is not useless. Like I've listened to a lot of albums. I'm like, man, what's going on in this last song? I couldn't even get to the second to the last song. So I loved it, bro. I can't be on your too long tirade. I can't do that.
Yeah, as a narrative piece, it is a great ender. I find myself not only happy at the end of the story that the story has been ended, but I find myself in a neat way asking, is it a love lost at the end of the album, or is it this triumphant release from this constant back and forth inside of love? And whether you take which way, for this one, unfortunately, it falls flat musically for me as an ender. Like I dig it going out, but it doesn't seem to just really
validation.
That note of this triumphant out. It's not a bad song. It's just not as triumphant. I need this bookend. I need this bookend here for where we started and this long journey. And I get it narratively, but unfortunately I don't get it musically here. Not in a like worst song ever, not in a filler track kind of sense, not in a cutting room floor, but just in, I can see where it could be, like you said, Charlie, I could see where it could be this wild collaborative thing. And now saying it out loud, it sort of makes sense what he was saying, like the hardest to write, even though it was the simplest. It feels like this finished just because everybody said, okay, we're done it. And that's not the way I like to go out on this one. Just unfortunately, the final little piece right there.
Yeah, like I said, I'm with Cory, definitely. Like I said again, if we strip out those 2 songs and just put it in a basket with 10 other songs, and y'all listen to it like 2 months and say, okay, guys, come in here, pick up. We need you guys to pick a new, outro. You wouldn't pick those 2 songs because it's the hardest thing to tie in. Like you've told this story, which has scientists and clocks, man.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this is not this is not a concept album. There are narrative threads in it, but we've discussed concept albums a bunch of times here. That it's set in its mission statement that and some concept albums are really loose. Like last week we did Confessions. That's a very loose concept. There's kind of a lot you can go with there, even though you can argue it's a concept album. This, I don't think, was anyway intended as one. And so, narrative, I think of more so when the album's advertised as one. I look for that a bit more,
of course,
than I was doing here. Not that it doesn't exist. And I think they have done concept albums after this. I understand Milo Xyloto is like a rock opera, basically. It's telling a story about a character. This isn't, but it was their second album that they were still establishing themselves in a lot of ways. And
true.
I mean, later on they can go the concept route, but
I like to do those stories. I like to reach sometimes I reach too far. I had to fight myself during this one and constantly remind myself, like, this is not a concept album. Like, stop trying. Because it's so great, I ended up trying to make it a concept album sometimes in my critical listen to it, and I had to tell myself exactly that, Charlie, that this wasn't a concept. It's very loose and it has some really neat lines in it as far as that can be drawn back and forth, but not
but I feel like it conveys what they were trying to convey.
The
vulnerability in music. It gives you a spectrum of it. We all think it's great project, but in that great project there's so much vulnerable parts of it. How can we lift clocks to the next song? Oh my God. Oh, where are we going now with the next one? Oh my God, the last two songs is 10 minutes. What are you guys trying to do? It's him trying to show you his vulnerable state in his own presentation of the album, I would say.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that here. And it ends this wild ride. This was a wild ride of an album to discuss. I'm really glad we did it. It was the first Coldplay album I've actually listened to back to front, front to back, whatever you want to say. I've always known the hits, of course, but it was good to see this other side of a band that's just always been there. So thank you, Jerry, for joining us on this journey. I do have to ask, I think I have an idea of what it will be. What is your letter grade for this album?
Man, it gotta be an A, man.
We give out A's all the time. It's okay.
I'm validating you and Cory's objections by not giving an A+.
You can give it an A+ if you want. We've given them out before. I mean,
but I'll give it an A because they, like I said, those two songs was the anchor for the tape. And as a musician, when you're doing a whole tape, and it's something, I mean, in my own path right now, I'm just releasing singles, but I've been working on certain tapes for years that I'm gonna release. So some of them are gonna be taking good singles and then you tape them up. Some of them are gonna be concepts where it's like, when you listen to it, you get what I was trying to do. It's just dope. Just talking about this with you guys, it's really dope.
Yeah. Cory, what's your grade?
Oof, Coldplay, giving it to me. It was so cool to go back to this one from front. Just from the offset of this album, it was amazing. They set a new sound, went through it. We go throughout without a pacing faux pas until the end. We have an opus. We have beautiful narratives. I have very, very few bad words to say about this, if any at all. And for that, I have to give it an A.
That's big. That's big.
I mean,
I was scared Cory gonna do me with a B. No.
Yeah. As for me, this one, it was a bit different for me. Quite a few of these songs really had to grow on me. It took repeated listens at times for me to let them sink in over the course of the time I've been preparing to do this. I kind of did a Coldplay crash course in many ways, so
that's good
to prepare myself for this. And there is some of that Radiohead-esque quality at times, which is not my favorite because just again not my favorite band, but they're evolving into their own thing at this point in time. The highs here are very high. There I found a couple small pacing issues, and some songs for me, they're good, but they don't always quite get to that great level for me that I really connect with it on that whole other plane. And for that, I'm going to give this a really solid B. It's a really strong album. It's deserving of its acclaim. But it's just not the first thing I always go for, but that's okay. I still found a lot to enjoy here.
Charlie, I will remember that you gave Clocks and Scientists a B.
No, the songs, the song Clocks is an A.
No, walk it back. Stand on what you said.
No, it's the truth, though.
No. The album you put B on has those two songs in there. I just want to state the fun facts.
Can be surrounded by songs that aren't as good. That's all I'm saying.
True. I would you. Hey, definitely not as good as those two songs. I would you on that for sure. I mean, that's why I said it was showing you his vulnerability. When you're vulnerable, you can be amazing. Then you might not be as amazing. But I think what he tried to do was still give us something to still latch on to the end of the tape, which I think at the end of the day, it is perfect because that's what I learned through this journey was being vulnerable, but also being vulnerable in music. But also just look at how Clocks was made, the concept about it, right? He gave you this B project, but that song was a perfect song. See the vulnerability?
Yeah, man. I think this is a perfect time to say our favorite songs. Charlie, what's your favorite song on this bad boy?
Clocks. Prize of the century right there.
Jerry, what's your favorite song on this one?
Oh, my favorite song is Clocks, man.
Heard that. I'm going God Put a Smile on Your Face.
Hey, what?
It speaks
contrarian.
To my old school Alice in Chain vibes. What? That acoustic guitar is the jam. Boom, bam.
You said Clocks was their opus earlier.
It is. It
is the opus, but it's
not my favorite. It's not my favorite.
Okay, that's a fair point. I mean,
I love me some. I that song went into my playlist, and I jam on that song.
It's a good one. I didn't quite think of it of the grunge elements in it quite, but you know more about that than I do. So he does for grunge. Definitely.
I see what you're saying, though. I see because I like that song too. Like I like
like I said at the top of the podcast, Clocks is its own entity, man.
That's a fair point. There are times we have to say this certain songs are their own entity and exist. They loom so large over an album that it can be hard to put it in there. We've had that before, but I just can't. I gotta be real to myself. I can't lie to myself and say it's something else. So
no, Clocks is definitely for me. I got into Coldplay at the time when I dealt with a lot of I just wanted to be to myself. I just was on a very confused state in my life, in second year in college, trying to figure out who I am. Thinking about changing my major a billion times because I thought I couldn't do it. But I got into Coldplay, and I would literally, I mean, as I'm saying right now, like I can remember just envision it. I'll come home, and if I'm crazy bad, man, I'll just blast it and just go to sleep. Like, and we're talking about certain Coldplay songs that are like, those times I'll put Scientist and Clock on repeat on a playlist and have them alternate, and it would just give me some sense of happy place, some sort of peace, and yeah, man. So that's why, like, I keep telling anybody, like, bro, if there's one person I'll pay, I don't like going to concerts, but if there's one person I'll pay top dollar for just to hear them perform these crazy songs, would be Coldplay.
Yeah, it's something I didn't touch on earlier, but there's definitely a meditative quality in the arpeggio on the main riff, or really in the whole composition of Clocks. There's a meditative quality in it where it's a soothing composition.
Yes.
And, those songs, I think everybody has their songs that take them to those really special places in their life that remind them of certain times, good or bad, but they get us through them. And thank you for sharing that. I'm glad that you did, because I think that's so important. And that's part of why I like to do this show. I didn't have as many connections to personal stories about all these songs because this was a newer album for me, but the ones that I go back with, we gotta get deep on turntables and tea sometimes.
Of course.
We gotta do it. But yes, thank you again so much. This was a ton of fun.
No, thanks to you and Cory for having me. God bless you. This is actually my first podcast feature being part of. Like, I've always, my brother has been pushing me, but I actually told Charlie I'm producing a podcast. I'll probably send you guys to watch it, but I'm actually the one producing behind the scenes. Actually, I own it, but it's on one of my childhood friends. She's a model, and she's gonna be. We're gonna be trying to travel around the world, meet different people, and just talk about culture and stuff like that. This is literally my first podcast that I'm actually featuring. It was a great experience. Thanks to you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye out for your friend's podcast.
Of course. I'm definitely
to all of our friends out there, for sure.
Yeah, I followed you guys on Instagram, so I'm gonna be sharing you guys' work, and definitely anytime y'all want me to come on, just holla, just let me know.
Absolutely. I think it's so great I'm so glad it was the first time in a long time that we've had a guest, but it went really well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm honored.
Yeah, it had been a while. It just hadn't been in the cards for a while, but it was again, and hopefully here's to many more, hopefully.
Yes, sir. All right. Many more.
Yes, but now we have to announce what we're doing next week.
All
right, so folks, we have a lot of new releases coming out this spring that we're really excited to release, but we have some time in between and we don't want to keep you waiting. So we've decided to do 2 albums released in leap years, since 2024 is a leap year. And we have the 29th of February coming up. And I've picked one. It's from somebody who we've done a couple times on this show already, but this was my favorite album of 2020, and one that has a lot of personal value to me. And I went to the tour for it too. And it was one of the best concerts ever. So with that being said, we will be doing Lady Gaga's Chromatica, which I think is her best album. Spoiler alert, that might be a hot tea take, but
yeah, man,
I'm ready to do it.
The Gaga. And coming up, she is the featured icon in the Fortnite season 2. So Gaga's out there now. Gaga's with us for the leap year run.
Yeah, and she'll be back towards the end for the Joker sequel.
It's true.
That's wild, but she will be. But yes, until then, thank you again, Jerry, for joining us.
Of course. It's my pleasure, guys.
Yes, and keep your clock set for our next episode. And until then, just take care of yourselves. Bye.
Peace.